Welcome to the CXM Experience. Today's a tribute show. Kind of sad, but it's a great story about a great person. Happened over the weekend, and I was deeply saddened when I heard of it. And you may have heard as well that Tony Hsieh has passed away. For those of you who don't know, Tony is the CEO and one of the founders of Zappos, and has had an amazing career, mostly focused on customer experience. And I'd say that his secret weapon was customer experience. So I wanted to just give you a little bit of my story with Tony Hsieh and a little bit about him, give you a couple things to read. And along that journey, I'll also share a little bit of insight on customer experience with Wikipedia, and we'll just kind of ramble for a few minutes here and take a few lessons from Tony and thank him for everything that he's taught us. And I think there's still quite a bit left to learn. So I have been an entrepreneur and a corporate citizen as well over the course of my career, kind of gone back and forth. And at one point, I ran a startup called Open Cola with Cory Doctorow and John Henson. And we got our original round of funding from a now defunct VC firm in Toronto called Mosaic Venture Partners. Vernon Lobo was the LP there who kind of led that round with us. And Vernon still runs a different Mosaic company called Mosaic Capital Partners. And as part of that, one thing that Mosaic did a nice job of, and this is kind of back in the day, right? So this is late 90s. Did a nice job of bringing in leading speakers and thinkers and entrepreneurs and other VC firm leads, et cetera. And in one of those meetings, we met Tony Hsieh. At that time, Tony had just sold something called Link Exchange to Microsoft for a couple $100 million, had a bit of coin in his pocket, and had started his own VC firm, which was, I think, probably one of the most sort of interesting names for VC firm ever, called Venture Frogs. And they decided to call it Venture Frogs because a friend of his said that she'd invest everything she had in the firm if they called it Venture Frogs. So he did, although she didn't. But they invested in a wide variety of tech and internet startups, including Ask Jeeves. And Ask Jeeves was a search engine, and Open Cola was a search engine as well. So it was kind of a good combo. And I think at one point we were talking to Tony about investing in Open Cola. He also invested in Open Table, one of my favorite apps, and then Zappos, where he joined the founder, Nick Swindom, and then became CEO and was CEO there for 21 years. So I had a chance to meet him and at an earlier stage, and I remember him talking about happiness then and talking about culture then. And it was interesting. He had such an incredible focus on culture. And it was interesting to me that he was so focused on it. And I was a real blind spot for me at the time because I'd come from Procter & Gamble, where culture was very strong and very powerful and very effective. And so I didn't really have a dysfunctional culture story to sort of lean back on and understand what happens when it goes bad. And then after that, I was sort of running my own companies. So, kind of felt good about those. Since then, I've had the opportunity to experience culture gone wrong. And I'll tell you, boy, it's a killer. And so that focus on culture that Tony had from a very early stage served him quite well. He took Zappos from complete startup to sold it to Amazon for $1.2 billion, and is generally regarded as one of the best places to work, and is still quite independent of Amazon, but leverages a lot of Amazon's technology. So as I was kind of preparing this sort of tribute today to Tony, I want to actually talk about Amazon in a second because he's got a great book you should buy there. I was doing a little bit of research just on Wikipedia to remind myself of some of the particulars of his life and things that he'd done. And when I got to Wikipedia, they asked me to donate. They're doing one of their donation campaigns right now. And apparently, if we all donate $2.75, they'll be set for years to come. So I decided to I usually do about $20 a year. I would say I probably get more than $20 in value from Wikipedia. And I thought they did a nice job this year on the positioning. They said, if you think we've given you $2.75 worth of value this year, we'd like you to donate it to us. I thought, oh, that's pretty compelling. It's like a value realization sale, right? Which is, did I get basically $3 of value from Wikipedia this year? And it's like, hell yes. In fact, I get probably that kind of value from them almost every day. And so I kind of feel like I'm still sort of ripping them off, giving them $20, but at least it's, 10x what they asked for. What was interesting is that I clicked on the link and I had the opportunity to use Amazon Pay, PayPal, or credit card. So I chose Amazon Pay. It took me through I had to do an authorization on my phone with a link. I logged in. It was pre-filled, so that was easy. Chose the $20, cashed out, and it was done. Great. However, I ended on a thank you page from Wikipedia, which was great. I'm glad they were thankful. But I could have used that as an email, because what I really wanted to do is go to the page that I had entered originally. And so they took me out of that flow and I had to kill it and then start all over again. Not a big deal, but just if you're listening to Wikipedia, that flow after I pay, take me to the thing I was searching for originally and make me feel really good about that transaction, getting me to the information I wanted right away. So anyway, back to Tony. So he's got a book that he wrote. You should read it if you're in a business that deals with customers. It's a book called Delivering Happiness: A Path to Profits, Passion, and Purpose. He wrote it back in 2013, but it's just as relevant today. And he has all sorts of sort of things that he did at Zappos to make it a new and different kind of culture. For example, they would pay brand new employees who weren't working out. They'd pay them $2,000 to quit, just to get them to move on. They made customer service the responsibility of the entire company. And this is something I've been talking about over and over again, which is, if care is the new marketing, care can't just be the responsibility of the care department or even just the marketing department. Everyone has to be engaged in it. And one of the things I love about Zappos is that at Zappos, everybody actually works in care. So when you first start, you're on a sort of 4-week training program. And a part of that time you spend in customer service. At Sprinkler, we have a customer experience center. When new employees come into the marketing department, they work in the CXC, learn how the product works, but they also get to engage with customers. And so I think this idea of being able to put people on the front lines is really important as well. What I think is also really cool is that they also make sure that when things are busy, everyone does it. So as part of the company's unique culture, all employees work on the customer service desk during the training, and they also help out during the busy holiday season. Even Tony Hsieh would work the phones during the holiday season. And if you go online, there are all these memorable stories from Zappos employees about amazing customer service experiences that they've had. And what's interesting when you read them, and there's different themes to them, and some are, I think the great thing about Zappos is if you've got a problem, they'll solve it. If you can return shoes up to 365 days after buying them, and they'll help you find an exchange. Or, in one case, someone tried to return shoes, but her credit card that she originally used to buy them was gone, so she couldn't refund it to their credit card. So she could get a new pair of shoes, and the person spent hours on the phone helping pick out shoes with the person. In fact, I think if I recall that story correctly, that particular story was a 10-hour call. And so the Zappos person was on the phone for 10 hours with the person and exchanging a pair of shoes for 10 hours. So they talked about New York. They talked about Friends, the TV show. They talked about kids. They talked about household chores. There was customers on the speakerphone, and they just talked for 10 hours. And the agent says it was so easy and natural. It felt like a long last best friends. We're still Facebook friends, but we still haven't met in person. And this idea, as you go through all these Zappos stories, they're all about creating personal connection. Very authentic personal connections. And frequently they talk about how long they'll spend with someone on the phone. There's no time on call metric at Zappos. And so they can spend the time they need to get done what needs to be get done and create a really, really loyal customer. And that, of course, amplifies like crazy. One of the other things about Zappos, which is quite unique, is its management structure. they run on a principle, and they're relatively unique in this. There's other companies that play with it, but in terms of a major corporation, I think they're one of the only ones that run on the principle of holacracy. And there's actually a holacracy organization. So it's actually a registered trademark of Holacracy One LLC, and it is defined by the Holacracy Constitution, which was released under Creative Commons 4.0 share-alike license. And it was invented originally by someone named Brian Robertson at a company called Ternary Software, which is in Exton, Pennsylvania. And he kind of laid all this stuff out in the early 2000s, and actually has released a book called Holacracy: The New Management System for a Rapidly Changing World. Medium tried it for a while, but moved on. But Zappos is committed to it, and in fact, so committed that in 2015 they actually said, if you're not fully committed to this, you should leave the company because this is where we're going. And so in 2015, about 14% of the Zappos company voluntarily left because they didn't want to stay aligned to holacracy, which I think is fascinating. So it's basically a system where there's not this sort of strict kind of management structure that you typically see, but basically you structure the organization as a system of self-organizing circles. And the circles are organized hierarchically, and each circle is assigned clear purpose and accountabilities by its broader circle. But the circles all have the authority to self-organize internally to best achieve their goals. And each circle conducts their own governance meetings, they assign members to fill roles, and they take out responsibility for carrying out work within their domain of authority. And so there are link people that sit between the circles, but the idea is to create a very flexible, fast-moving system that integrates input from different parties and ensures that everything is done to meet the needs of the customer. So I think it's a fascinating idea. I've never worked in a system like this, so I don't know. All I can say is that boy, oh boy, do they do a great job at Zappos. So there's probably something there. And it's interesting to see how committed Tony was to that. I was watching some videos of him on the weekend, after I heard the news, and he was talking about holacracy in detail. So there we go. Tony Hsieh, innovator, forward thinker, orthogonal thinker, someone committed deeply to customer satisfaction, committed deeply to being human and having passion, committed deeply to trying to find new ways to do things. Real loss, 46 years old, to lose Tony at this stage, probably as he was about to embark on a career of influencing a whole new generation of companies is a real tragedy. But you can read his book, you can read more about his company, and you can find more about his philosophy. And I guess probably the best thing you could do today to really recognize it is go buy a pair of shoes at Zappos. For the CXM Experience, this is Grad. I'll see you next time.